Ukraine. And we will be reading this when that's all over. That's just an insignificant part of history. So I've been looking last week and I was looking today of how we might go about it. And I thought the best way is to do as we have been doing. As we all read, we pause, we have some reflections and questions.
Yeah.
But that's the way we have been doing it. But if any of you have any feedback of other ways you might like to go about reading, not just this Bhagavatamrta, but other reading sessions as well, it's really be great to have some feedback. Or some of you might be finding it a bit difficult. I think some of you might be finding Sankara Kaumudi a bit technical. So we're trying to make it, we're trying to make it as understandable as possible. But like that, if you've got any ideas, because with Sudha Bhakti Chintamani, then we've got the slides, and it's more like I'm doing a class type presentation where I encourage questions and reflections upon what we're saying. But our reading of Sankara Kaumudi is just like a reading together. That's another way. To get slides together for Bhagavatamrita would take me too long. I don't have the time to do that. Or to get slides together for Sankara Kaumudi would also be. I've got some slides for some chapters, and that's coming up. So, but to get it for the whole, it would be very difficult. It's not difficult; it just takes time. So if any of you have any feedback of how we go about our readings, we're very happy to receive that. Sorry?
I think the way we read, stop, and discuss, or you come up, anybody wants to say something, it'd be good. Yeah. Not just reading. It just gets like a bit. It's good if there's some interactions.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So, and just so some of you, I think some of you,
yeah.
I know some of you might be, I don't know, some of you might be feeling hesitant to perhaps ask questions or discussion on some topics because it's going on YouTube. That might be the case, it might not. But really, no one's really looking at these videos on YouTube. It's only amongst ourselves. So don't worry too much about that. It's not like, but if some of you really think you're feeling that's making you feel restricted in questions, then you can let me know. I can make the videos only available for ourselves. You know, you can. Yeah.
Prabhu, I just have a thought.
Yeah.
Reading the Bhagavatam, we shouldn't stop and ask too many questions because it's such a beautiful flow. Sanatana Goswami has written it so nicely that it really will take the mood away. I mean, we're reading it. Not too many, relevant questions, yes, but not expanding it or digressing elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that would be up to me to keep it on track.
Okay.
That's up to me. That's what I do in my Bhagavad Gita readings on a Friday night.
Right.
Often things can go off the mark a bit. So, but that's up to me, and I'll try and manage that as much as possible. If devotees ask questions, it can lead to a nice discussion as long as it stays on the topic.
Yes.
So, I suppose this is a bit of Istagosti we're having before we start our reading.
Yeah.
Nittai Mata.
I was thinking, Prabhu, rather we stopping and asking the question, we can keep the questions later so that we won't miss the flow.
Long as, well, that's one option, but long as we might forget the questions.
If somebody can write on the chat, if they
I would like to leave it open if devotees feel there's something. Each time we might read a verse on the purport because the Brihat Bhagavatamrita is in verse and purport form, like Srila Prabhupada's books.
Okay.
At least perhaps we'll read one purport and then we'll stop and see if there's any questions upon that. So perhaps we won't stop during the purple. Some purples are quite like that, you know.
Prabhu, where can I find it online, Prabhu? Because there are so many.
Yeah, okay. Right, so let me just share my screen.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
What am I sharing here? Bhagavatamrta, of course, yeah. So what can you see? Can you see Bhagavatamrta? Yeah?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so I got this online. It's easily available online, $7.99 if you want, because there wasn't any hardback available here. And if I ordered one, it would take some time. So it's online. It's quite easily available from the BBT.
Okay.
Just put in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, and if you've got, if you're on Mac, you can go into your books, search, and it'll come up quite easy.
Okay.
It's easily available.
Okay.
Part 1 and part 2. Part 2 comes in 2 parts.
Yeah.
In essence, it consists of 2 parts.
Yeah.
All right. So I was looking online, and as many of our senior devotees have done readings, or Keshav Bharati Maharaj has done audio reading of the complete book, and you can find that if you want for your further hearing. Also, presently near Ranjana Swami Maharaj is also doing like a reading class, and also I forget his name now, but another spiritual master's name escapes me. But there's been quite a lot of classes and seminars on Brihat Bhagavatamrita, especially since it came out with this translation and commentary, or translated by Gopiparanadhana as well, since it's become very, very popular book in ISKCON. Many devotees have done seminars on it. I was looking at Suttapa has done one. He did one here at our temple, like the essence of Brihat Bhagavatamrita, part of it. Bhakti True Swami, as we know, would often give classes in it. And the others as well. Who else? Well-known Prabhupada disciple, Mataji, Ormala Mataji, she's done also classes in it. So it's very popular. So I think it's wonderful that we're embarking on this wonderful encyclopedic reading of this. It's quite large. I'm not sure how long it might take, but if we do it each week, I'm sure we get gradually we'll make our way through, as we have done with Sudha Bhakti Chintamani and Nectar Devotion. So so anyway, without further ado, now I was looking through exactly what to read in the beginning parts, because we have a preface, there's a preface, there's a foreword, and there's also a biography of Srila Sanatana Goswami. And so we won't read all of those. What I thought I would do is, because the foreword is by one Professor O'Connell, and it's a wonderful, I mean, if you do have it at home with you, or if you are going to download it, it's worth reading that, but it's quite lengthy, and it's very, very technical. So I thought I might miss that. I hope that's okay with everyone. But I thought I would read the preface, which is by Gopiparanadhana. So we'll read the preface. And Sanatana Goswami, his biography, I think most of us are familiar to some degree of the life of Sanatana Goswami. So that's a separate reading in of itself, I think. So if you want to become familiar with more with Sanatana Goswami, perhaps in your own time you could read that. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So what I thought I would do, I would, if I may, indulge in one sense, and I thought I might read the preface just so we can get, it's like a flow. It's very good. And then we can start, and then we should have a look at a little glance at the contents of this part 1 to give you a little taster and an idea of the subjects that we're going to be reading. Right, that's my kind of plan. Any further suggestions on that, or yays or nays, or we're okay with how we're going to go about this?
It's
You're
perfect.
okay.
Very good,
Both
Prabhu.
good, Prabhu.
You are okay, Muli Prabhu.
Okay, so let me read the preface. This is by Gopiparanadhana, and it's very nice. It really kind of sets the scene very nicely. Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Bhattaya Krishna Bhastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunyavadi Pashtatara Satarane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Okay, I hope I can read through this without becoming overwhelmed by hay fever and start sneezing. It seems quite okay at the moment. Anyway, so preface. The hero's quest for the extraordinary, an ever-recurring theme in literature, reflects the urge of every heart at its noblest to discover the full possibilities of life. Anyone dissatisfied with the scant potential of mundane existence is naturally stimulated by the prospect of finding, even vicariously, a world of greater liberty. There should be some better place for the soul. Why should happiness be so elusive? And why should confusion and resentment always shroud the mind's eye, making it unable to see clearly what's in front of it? Srila Sanatana Goswami's Bhagavatamrta is a gem-like example of the quest genre, but different from the sort commonly encountered in fable and fiction. Narada and Gopakumar, the respective heroes of this book's 2 parts, are searching for a key to fulfillment, much subtler than wealth, influence, mundane love, the fountain of youth, or even the Holy Grail. Narada has vast experience of the cosmos. Gopakumar is illiterate and naive, yet they share the same vision of what is most valuable. What both want is not to conquer or exploit any on any level, but to explore the mystery of selfless service, as Narada already knows and Gopakumar will gradually learn. The superior mode of life they seek is personal and defined by the interplay of those who take part in it, rather than by the material laws of nature. The cynosure of the spiritual world in which Sanatana Goswami and his protagonists feel at home is one special person, the object of the selfless love Narada and Gopakumar value above all. Narada knows this special person, Krishna, as the prince of the Yadus, and Gopakumar contemplates him as a young cowherd like himself. Srila Sanatana takes it for granted that Krishna Gopal is supreme, that Krishna is the creator and controller of everything, and leaves the task of proving it to his brother Rupa Goswami, who later takes it up in his Lagu, smaller Bhagavatamrta. Here in the bigger Bhagavatamrta, the main questions are in whom and in what realm is love for the Supreme Person most intimately known. At first glance, the structure of Brihad Bhagavatamrta may to modern readers seem repetitious, but the plot does have a logic of its own, which is developed the way classical Indian music develops themes, repeating them again and again with subtle embellishments. In part 1, for example, the same thing happens to Narad over and over. He goes to someone who is supposed to be Krishna's most favored devotee, praises that person, and is rebuked, refuted, and redirected to someone else. Yet in this cyclic repetition, we discern a progress, although not a linear one aiming at a single point. We learn much more than a simple fact that someone in particular is the greatest lover of God. Yes, the young gopis of Vrindavan are unquestionably Krishna's best devotees. But for neophytes still addicted to material lust, merely establishing the gopis as the distant ideal is of little practical use and may even be dangerous. By understanding that to emulate the gopis' perfect devotion is extremely difficult. Honest persons might feel frustrated and dishonest. Honest persons might feel frustrated and dishonest will imitate, and the dishonest will imitate anyway and degrade themselves. Therefore, Narad, in his encounters with various devotees, carefully traces out the real foundations and natural progress of pure devotion in a way that readers can follow according to their own spiritual disposition. Unlike the material existence we all know, in which survival depends on our ability to jockey ourselves into better positions than competitors and garner our share of the limited resources for control and enjoyment, on the transcendental plane of love of God, the resources are unlimited, and everyone competes instead to prove that others are better than themselves. This remarkable quality, unknown in material life, is evident even in the sincere beginners in devotional practice, whom Narad meets first. The Brahmana of Prayag and the southern king. They and the more and elevated devotees of Krishna, Narad visits the king of heaven, Indra, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Prahlad, Hanuman, the Pandavas, the Yadus, and Uddhava. They deprecate themselves, not from lack of self-esteem, but out of complete honesty, in which they appraise from their own points of view who really has Krishna's mercy. Narada, an itinerant preacher, is the best person to undertake this survey of devotional attitudes. Not tied down to any particular place or situation, he is accustomed to meeting different ways of seeing things, and he has the good humor to tolerate being rebuffed by every saintly person he tries to glorify. Gopakumar, the main character of the second part of Bhagavatamrta, is an innocent young cowherd from the vicinity of Krishna's favorite hill, Govardhan. After a mysterious Brahmana initiates him into the 10-syllable Gopal mantra, a yearning to search out Lord Gopal awakens in Gopakumar's heart. Like Narad in part 1, Gopakumar searches throughout the material universe, but he also travels beyond into the kingdom of God, Vaikuntha, and yet further to the most confidential realms of the kingdom of God, Ayodhya, Dwarka, and Goloka. The final message of the second part of Bhagavatamrta is the super excellence of Goloka Vrindavan, the personal abode of Krishna in his original identity as the darling son of the cowherds, the lover of the gopis. Sri Goswami, who regarded his elder brother, Srila Sanatana, as his spiritual master, acknowledged in indebtedness to Bhagavatamrta in his definitive textbook on devotional service, Bhakti Rasmrita Sindhu, Srimat Prabhu Padambo Jai Sava Bhagavatamrita Vyakti Kritasti Gutta Pi Bhakti Siddhanta Madhuri. A divine master has revealed in his Bhagavatamrta all the sweet conclusions of devotional philosophy, including its most confidential secrets, unquote. This edition of Brihat Bhagavatamrta is not the first English translation of the work, but it is the first attempt to present in English the entirety of the author's own commentary, which he called Dik Darshani. This commentary is invaluable, helpful for studying Brihat Bhagavatamrta deeply. I have not translated the Dik Darshani verbatim, but I've given close paraphrase to that includes almost all of Sri Sanatana Goswami's points, with a few explanatory additions of my own. Typically, for a Sanskrit scriptural commentary, the Dik Darshani includes grammatical and syntactic analysis of the text, which I have incorporated in a translation. The rest of the commentary is also uncongenial to being translated literally, because Sanskrit commentaries are written in a stylized prose whose meanings is more suitably conveyed in English by careful paraphrase than by literal translation. Readers who would like to see a sample of how my commentaries derive from the Dik Darshani Tika may refer to the first appendix. The text that I translated comes from 3 printed editions, those of Puridas, Bhakta Sastri Goswami of the Sori Prapana Ashram, and Bhakti Sri Rupa Bhagavat Maharaj of the Chaitanya Mat. All 3 editions are printed in a Bengali script and include a Dik Darshani commentary. In the Chaitanya Mat edition, only for the second part. Sanatana Goswami too wrote his original manuscript in the Bengali alphabet, but we have chosen to print as Sanskrit text in the more widely known Devanagari. Our proofreaders and I carefully compared the 3 texts that I consulted, one of which was Puridas's notes, variant readings from 2 manuscripts. And when different readings arose, I made my own choice on which to use. I found that in each case, the alternative readings almost never made an important difference in meaning, and the commentary and the logic of the text itself helped me choose. For those interested, I have noted in variant readings of Srimad Bhagavatamrta the alternative readings of the editions consulted. Srila Sanatana Goswami in his commentary and sometimes in the verses of Brihat Bhagavatamrta cites hundreds of verses from Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, especially various Puranas and the Mahabharata. In several instances, the Bhagavatam verses are quoted by Sri Sanatana differ slightly from the text of the Bhagavatam published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. Again, these differences are almost never significantly change the meaning. I have used the author's readings of these verses even when they differ from the BBT version, and have listed the variants in readings of Srimad Bhagavatam, verses that differ from the BBT edition. Verses quoted from other Puranas and the Mahabharata I have simply given as Sri Sanatana presents them, with chapter and verse numbers taken from the Venkata Eshvara Press edition of the Puranas, reprinted by the Nag publishers and others, and the Pune critical edition of the Mahabharata. The other sources I've consulted are listed in the bibliography. While working on this book, I have had the undeserved good fortune to be living at the location of Gopakumar's story, Sri Govardhan, first on the shore of Manasaganga, next door to Srila Sanatana Goswami's Bhajan Kotir, and more recently by the very side of Giridharaja Danigat. I hope that some flavor of all these ecstatic holy abodes has penetrated my ignorance and found its way onto these pages. I am only a very imperfect servant of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his servants. I cannot pretend to have any profound understanding of Sri Sanatana Goswami's revelation of the most sublime spiritual truths. I am also a clumsy writer, only because this book has been expertly edited by my dear godbrothers Keshava Bharati Prabhu and Jayadvaita Swami is it now as readable as it is. They have worked hard to turn my crude manuscript into something that does justice to the original text, and for this I will be forever indebted. After dedicating nearly 30 years to the preaching mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Keshava Bharati Prabhu has now started an editing career that is already bearing wonderful fruit. Jayadvaita Swami, who was Srila Prabhupada's own editor and is the one person who best knows the high standards of Bhaktivedanta Book Trust Publishing, I am confident that anything passing his scrutiny must be acceptable to Srila Prabhupada and his predecessors. I am also very thankful to my wife, Archamurti, my old friend Davida Prabhu, and Srimati Vishaka Priya for their editorial comments, to Keshav Dasi for skillfully proofreading, to Dormada Prabhu for assisting in compiling varied readings of the text of Sri Bhagavatamrta and locating scriptural citations, to Rasa Rashi Prabhu for helpful research. My thanks to our BBT publisher, Brahma Muhurta Prabhu, for his encouragement and commitment, to our production manager, Govindam Hadava Prabhu, to our artist, Dina Bandhu Prabhu, and to the other BBT devotees working on the book's production in Sweden and elsewhere. My life belongs to the BBT, and I am grateful to be working under its shelter. My thanks also to Purananda Prabhu, Brahma Muhurta Prabhu, and Madhupati Prabhu for their financial contributions towards the printing of this book. I pray to the Vaishnava readers for this translation, for their blessings and a tolerance of my faults. I want only that Srila Sanatana Goswami, Shri Vrindavan Dham, and undeviating devotion to Shri Hara Madan Gopal receive the proper glorification they deserve. Gopiparanadhana Das at Giriraj Govardhan, Shri Ram Navami, April 12th, 2000. Hare Krishna. Gopiparanadhana Prabhu Ki.
Yeah.
Very nice, isn't it? We kind of
amazing.
We get the intimate association of Gopiparanadhana, who has since passed away.
Yes.
Since the writing of this book, as we all know, a great loss for our society. He left a jewel behind.
Yep.
So, okay, I know you're all eager to start, but let's just go, as I said. Let's just have a little quick look at the contents of this part one. I won't read all of this. Let's all look at it together, shall we? So this is our journey. This is where we're going to begin. There's a Mangala Charan that begins of a few verses of prayers of Sanatana Goswami before he begins the book. And then there's an interesting history of the book, how it came about, how it was spoken, and to whom it was spoken. Here, then it elaborates here. This is part of the history. Then it really starts here. Yeah. And then Narada Muni, as we heard, then goes on a journey. And he comes to all these different devotees. You see my marker here, my finger thing. Yeah. And we're going to follow. Now, I've not read this book completely. I read some of it a few years ago, but I didn't complete the reading. I read some of it also coming back from Scotland, stuck on a train. So I haven't got the same, you say, exactly the same grasp as I do have of Sudha Bhakti Chintamani or Sankalpa Kaumudi, which I have read before teaching it or before sharing the reading. So I'm going to into it a little bit blind as well, but still it's exciting. Just let you know that. So then we go to, then Narada goes to the heavenly realms, Vamana Dev, he meets and Lord Brahma, like that. Then he goes to Shiva, he goes to Shiva Loka, and he praises Parvati. Then we go on. Shiva reminds Narada that Krishna is present on earth. Then we go to, now it visits Prahlad, then Hanuman, and then the Pandavas, then Yudhisthira, ultimately with the Pandavas. Then Narada's parade, now Bhima, Arjuna, Yudhisthira, etc., Nakula, and then Kunti, Narada, then the Yadavas, and then Uddhava, then some Rohini blames Krishna for the condition of Raj. We shall hear about that. And then we're going to Raj now. Balaram was still in Mathura, but hearing about Raj. And then this is part 7, which completes this part 1, complete perfection. Brahma arranges, etc. Then Nanda and Yasoda. Then Krishna talks to Radha. The queens of Dwarka, Balaram's there. Garuda brings back 2 brothers to Dwarka. We hear about that. Krishna scolds Satyabhama. And like that. Married the queens, Garuda's mood. Krishna greets Narada and thanks him. Then Narada returns to Prayag. And Parikshit advises Uttara to worship Madan Gopal. All right. That is where we're going to be going. So, having gone through all that in half an hour, that's not bad.
We've read it all. Good.
Huh?
We've read it all now.
Yes. So, let me go up here. Okay, we all ready?
Good.
Yes. Okay, let's go to part 1.
Yeah.
Okay, here we start on planet Earth. That happens to be where we are. Good place to start.
Yep.
Okay, who would like to, let me just, as 3 participants raise their hand, let me get up. So Sahachari, she's always excited to read. I think we should probably be best not read the Sanskrit, because I think we might, to one degree or another, kind of trip over that a bit, stop the flow. So let's just, unless someone really wants to read the Sanskrit and they can read it nicely, that's fine. But perhaps just read the translation. Yeah. Okay, without further ado. Yes.
I'll just do the first verse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jayati nija padabja prema anavartirno vividha madhurimabdhi kopi kishora gandhi gata parama dasantam yasya chaitanya rupat anubhava padam aptam prema gopishu nityam. All glories to the inconceivable Lord who descended to bestow the gift of perfect love for his own lotus feet. He is an ocean filled with many kinds of sweetness, and he always bathes the fragrance of fresh youth. In his form as Chaitanya, he has realized the last extreme of transcendental experience, the love residing eternally in the gopis. Commentary. The purpose of this book is to explain bhakti, pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of bhakti. He also bestows both material enjoyment and liberation, or oneness with the Supreme, but one who has bhakti relishes an abundance of happiness far greater than even the ecstasy of liberation. What to speak of the petty happiness of material enjoyment? Moreover, the devotion described here focuses solely on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, the master of the gopis of Sri Nanda Vraj or Vrindavan. Such bhakti consists of prema, pure love of God, and not only ordinary prema, but the special kind that follows the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. That prema is the ultimate perfection of love, in which the devotee has absolutely no interest in anything separate from Krishna. As the last chapters of this book will show, the devotees who worship the Lord with such pure devotion achieve the highest possible success. They live forever in the world called Goloka, far above Vaikuntha, the official kingdom of God. There in Goloka, according to their pleasure, they freely enjoy the company of Lord Krishna, Sri Nanda Kishora. Srila Sanatana Goswami will fully present all these ideas as this narration unfolds, but first he invokes auspiciousness in this verse and the following 9 verses. As if beginning for his Lord's rarely obtained mercy, he praises the Lord's supreme greatness. The first word, Jayati, all glories, indicates that the author's most worshipable Lord excels everyone else, although the words Jaya and Jayati are commonly used to glorify practically anyone or anything. Here, Jayati expresses excellence in its most unrestricted sense, the final limit of perfection, in which the Supreme Lord freely distributes devotion for his own, all attractive lotus feet. He does this by revealing the charm of his beauty, personal qualities, and pleasure pastimes, although the devotion he gives away is imbued with pure prema, the rarest of treasures meant for the most elevated souls. He grants it even to those who are fallen and wretched. Who is the most generous Lord? He can never be adequately described, for he is an unlimited ocean of various kinds of attractiveness, beauty, fine character, and so on. His attractive features, therefore, are fathomless, all expansive and perpetual. Describing the attraction of Lord's beauty, Srila Sanatana Goswami states that Sri Krishna has the fragrance of youth, a constant special presence like the scent of a flower. In other words, even an infant and a child, he exhibits the perfect beauty of fully blown youth. Thus, Lord Kapila said to his mother in this 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 3.2817, "The Lord is eternally very beautiful, and he is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and always eager to bestow his blessings upon his devotees." Since the possessor of such eternal youth, Sri Krishna enjoys his private pastimes in the remote realm of Goloka, one might doubt whether contact with him is possible for souls conditioned by material nature. Is it not beyond the scope of good fortune for ordinary persons to hear about and understand the uniqueness of devotion to Krishna? Since this book attempts to make public the secret glories of Krishna, one might therefore ask whether writing such a book is not a hopeless endeavor. The author answers that doubt conclusively in this verse. Before mentioning Sri Krishna's other unique qualities, he first refers to the Lord's exceptional generosity. Lord Krishna descended from Goloka to the earth 5,000 years ago to the district of Mathura to charitably give pure love for his own lotus feet. By thus appearing personally, the Lord made his special mercy readily obtainable. Although one may be correctly say that he descended to kill Kamsa and other evil kings, he has unlimited energies that could achieve such a minor purpose. Making pure love of God available by appearing himself was therefore his primary purpose, because a deputized person could have done it on his behalf. Queen Kunti therefore says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, "You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service onto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly?" Srila Sridhara Goswami has paraphrased this prayer in his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. How can we women see you, who have appeared as an avatara to make even self-satisfied saints take to devotional service by attracting them with your personal qualities? Srila Sanatana Goswami has first referred to Sri Krishna's magnanimity in this invocation verse. Now he continues to describe Krishna's characteristics and how they contribute to his purpose of distributing pure love of Godhead. The second half of the verse indicates the sweet charm of Krishna's pleasure pastimes. Krishna is the darling of the young cowherd women of Vraj, whose love for him never fails. By alluding to this love, the verse hints at the meaning of the exalted 10th-syllable Gopala mantra, which will play an important role in the second part of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrta. Not only has the Lord freely distributed prema to many fortunate souls, but he always has great love for his devotees, beginning with the gopis of Vrindavan, prema gopisha nityam. In general, Lord Krishna feels affinity for his devotees in response to the particular ways they love him. But because the love of the gopis feel for him in completely unconditional, natural, unmotivated, and causeless, they have always been more dear to him than anyone else, and they always will be. The gopis' unsurpassed spiritual status should therefore never be questioned. As shown by the word nityam, eternally, he is never indifferent to the gopis or dissatisfied with them. Sri Narada and other authoritative devotees will confirm this in their own words later in Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrta in the description of the glories of Goloka. Again, someone may doubt the possibility of ever understanding the Vrindavan gopis' love for Krishna. Indeed, as long as one's mind is even slightly affected by lust, anger, and greed, one cannot begin to appreciate the sublime purity of their love. But by the powerful mercy of Krishna, in his most recent appearance on earth, these impediments can be overcome with wonderful ease. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Lord Krishna himself, he has descended to exhibit the true nature of Prema Bhakti. Thus, he manifests in himself the ecstatic mood of the gopis, their ever-increasing love for Sri Krishna, which is reflected proportionately in Krishna's ever-expanding love for them. This revelation is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's priceless contribution to the world's welfare, by which he becomes the only real friend of the unhappy and degraded. He has thus allowed persons of our modern times to directly experience the mutual love of Krishna and the gopis. And those who can understand the gopis' perfect love can properly understand the super excellence of Lord Krishna. By mentioning these matters, Srila Sanatana is outlining the basic theme of his book. The first part of Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrta will pursue the question of where the Lord's mercy ultimately resides. The conclusion is that the gopis are his most beloved devotees and that their love for him is the highest achievement of life. Since the author has personally experienced this truth, it will not be difficult for him to describe it for our benefit. There are no grounds for doubt. Therefore, Vaishnavas should hear everything in this book with full confidence.
Hare Krishna. Okay. So perhaps we'll try and do like that. I'm just looking at the size of the purples. Perhaps each person who reads, we can just read a purple if they're not too long. And it seems like just scrolling through, as you can see, they're not too long. So perhaps we can go about it like that. Any appreciations, or everyone got the grasp of what's been spoken of here? It's glorification of that great gift that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, which is the love of the residents of Vrindavan. And I thought thinking it's quite apt after reading Srila Bhakti Chintamani. Now we're reading this book. It lines up quite nicely. There's also Prabhupada. Perhaps on our next reading, I can share some quotes from Srila Prabhupada, where he's glorifying Brihad Bhagavatamrta and saying that for anyone who wants to know the science of devotion, then they should read the Brihad Bhagavatamrta. Something I was going to say, I just escaped my mind then. But anybody else? Reflections on this? You're ready for the journey? Otherwise, we'll just continue reading. Okay, let's read the next verse. See, Sri Radhika is being mentioned. So, participants, if you press that participant who's got a hand up to reading. So let's, Mother Lavanga Latika, you can read the next verse for us.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes, a little bit low. Your voice is always a little bit low, but we can hear it just about. I don't think there's much you can do about it, but
what I can do.
the voice is breaking up a bit. But
I don't know what to do about that. Better?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Text 2. All glories above all to the gopis, headed by Sri Radhika, who are famous as the Lord's dearmost devotees. No one can even begin to properly describe the charm of their supreme affection for Sri Hari. Commentary. Because one can achieve the favor of the personality of Godhead only by pleasing his dearest devotees. This verse describes the supreme excellence of the gopis of Vrindavan. Among them, Sri Radhika is the best, and therefore her name is mentioned first. The gopis should be offered special honor because, although the Supreme Lord may sometimes lose interest in other devotees or become dissatisfied with them, he never becomes uninterested in the gopis. All pure devotees therefore acknowledge the supremacy of the gopis' pure devotion. The Lord himself tells the gopis, I am not able to repay my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. Bhagavatam 10:32-22. The gopis are famous as the dearmost devotees of the Lord. The deep affection with which Sri Krishna cherishes them is generally considered so clearly self-evident that the supremacy of their devotion is beyond any need to prove. Still, in exuberant devotion for the gopis, Srila Sanatana Goswami mentions here that no one can describe even an atomic particle of the sweet, intimate love the gopis feel for the all-attractive Krishna. So wonderful is that reciprocation with him that Krishna himself does not have the words to describe it.
Okay, thank you. Very nice. So he's giving respects to the gopis headed by Radhika. Of course, he himself is a Manjari. What's Sanatana Goswami's ontological position in relationship to Krishna? This escapes me now. Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. Anyone know Sanatana Goswami's? Right, we've got some homework to do. Perhaps next week we'll come back with that. Sanatana Goswami, who he is. Right, unless there's any questions or comments, we can read another verse. Samudhara Radhika, you have your hand, you can read.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
If you kindly turn the page over.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Thank you. Realizing that the ecstasy of his beloved devotees is even sweeter than his own, out of greed the Lord descended to this world in the form of his own devotee, dressed as a renunciant, golden in effulgence. He bears the name Sri Krishna Chaitanya. All glories to that Lord Hari, who has appeared as the son of Mother Shati. Commentary. The doubt raised in the first two verses might again be raised here. How, then, can you describe this love? Anticipating this question, Srila Sanatana Goswami replies that Sri Chaitanya Deva is the only deliverer of the most fallen and wretched souls. As the supreme spiritual master, he has descended in his most attractive form to distribute the transcendental taste of Sankirtana, the congregational chanting of his own holy names. Srila Sanatana Goswami wants the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and therefore glorifies him in this verse. Greater than Lord Krishna's love for his devotees is the love his most intimate devotees feel for him. Having noted that exceptional sweetness, the Lord wants to taste it. His eagerness drives him to assume the form of his own devoted servant. He then descends to earth in the province of Goda and city of Navadvip as Shachi Devi's beloved son, Gaura Sundara, the most beautiful golden form of Sri Krishna. Srila Sanatana Goswami uses the approximate pronoun Eshaha, this, to indicate that Lord Chaitanya was present around the time this book was composed, and that the author thus had the privilege of the Lord's personal association. Lord Chaitanya experiences what Krishna was unable to describe about the love of the gopis of Vrindavan, and furthermore reveals this experience to his followers. This marks Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the supreme appearance of God. The Lord has higher regard for his devotees than for himself, as he said, "With the dust of my devotees, lotus feet, I desire to purify the material worlds, which are situated within me. Thus I always follow in the footsteps of my pure devotees, who are peaceful, free from all personal desire, wrapped in thought of my pastimes, devoid of feelings of enmity, and of equal disposition everywhere." Bhagavatam 11:14-16, that the Lord thinks like this is vividly demonstrated by the avatara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakta Rupena means in the form of his own devotee, but there is also a second, poetically disguised meaning. When Lord Krishna descends from his eternal kingdom as Lord Chaitanya, one of the companions he brings is born as the son of Sri Kumara in an old Brahmana family of renowned spiritual masters from the southern province Karnataka. This is Sri Rupa Goswami, Bhakta Rupa, the brother of Sri Sanatana. In the more obvious literal sense, Bhakta Rupa means that Lord Chaitanya, taking the dress of a sannyasi, appears as a devotee of Krishna. In this role, as a renounced mendicant, Sri Shachinandana disseminates the methods of relishing devotion to himself. He demonstrates the transcendental chanting of Krishna's names and how to worship and offer prayers to Krishna. By these activities, the otherwise inaccessible secrets of Prema Bhakti have been released throughout the world for the benefit of those who live in the spiritually fallen modern age. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has eloquently depicted Lord Chaitanya's merciful gift to the world. Let my consciousness, which is like a honeybee, take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has just now appeared as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach the ancient system of devotional service rendered to himself. This system had almost been lost due to the influence of time. Do you want me to continue? Or?
Okay, well, it says someone else like to read. So nice glorification now. This is the generally where you're going to see all the books of the Goswamis begin, at least the major books. Then they will begin what's called with a Mangala Charan, where they glorify or they speak about the objective of the objective of the book. What's the ultimate goal of it? What's the purpose of it? And then they will glorify and seek the blessings before they begin writing the book. So in hearing these verses, we're also, in one sense, asking for the blessings from the Lord so we can understand it as well and help so it can enhance our devotional service. So we should also enter it reading these Mangalacharan verses with like a prayerful mood, that we can, because only by Krishna's grace can we possibly understand anything at all, let alone spiritual subjects such as this. And also we should pray that also it's going to enliven us as well in our devotional service, that it's going to touch our heart or melt our hearts, and dispel all the obstacles that are there within our hearts. So it's nice just trying kind of go along with the mood of Sanatana Goswami, and he's humbly submitting himself before the Lord, before Radha, before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, obviously, and also giving respects to Rupa Goswami. And I just read, just found out, just looked on online, Sanatana Goswami is Labanga Manjari.
No, and Ratimanda Manjari, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Rati Manjari plus Lavanga Manjari.
Rati Manjari, I thought that was Raghunath Das Goswami. Well, sometimes it's described, both can be described.
Wow.
Yeah, you've read that? Here it says that.
I found it just now.
Oh, you looked as well. Yeah, so there you go. Difference of opinion. Perhaps you might sometimes they have dual personalities. Sometimes there's some transcendental.
Yeah. And also says Sanatana Kumara plus Sanatana Kumara. One of the 4 Sanatana Kumaras.
Okay, I don't know about that. So he might appear as Kumars, but here is Labanga Manjari. So like he's a Manjari, or he serves as a Manjari, and he serves Vishaka Devi, Vishaka Shaki, in a particular in Radha Madhav's Nitya Nikunja Leela, eternal pastimes. So this is not Goswami. Yeah. Okay, there's a couple of devotees said, Mother Haladini, you like to read? Or you can, perhaps we've got 5 minutes left. Can you hear us, Mother Haladini? You need to unmute if you're reading. We can't hear you. She was there. She is there. I don't know.
She's there. She's unmuted now.
Are you
Ladini?
there, Mother Haladini? Got some technical issues there.
Yeah, she's got some issues.
Anyway, I'm going to jump in and read.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Jayati Matora Devi Shashta Purisho Manorama Paramadita Kamshateta Janishtiti Ranjita Dorita Haranam Mukti Bhakti Api Patit Pati Padnajat Jagati Mahita Tat Tat Krita Ka Astu Vidurataha. All glories to the goddess Mathura Devi, the best of holy cities. She enchants the mind. She is most dear to the enemy of Kamsa, and she is adorned with the Lord's birthplace. The city of Mathura is acclaimed throughout the world for dispelling misery and bestowing liberation and devotion, not to mention the various pastimes the Lord has played there. Commentary. Lord Sri Krishna has great affection for the holy land of Mathura because it is adorned with the sights of many of his favorite eternal pastimes. Mathura district is therefore the one place in the material universe where perfection of human endeavor, pure love of God, can be easily attained. To gain the favor of Sri Mathura Devi, the author praises her in this verse. Devi means the ruling goddess, or one who is perpetually effulgent. Because Mathura has the supreme Lord Krishna always present within her borders, she is untouched by fear from time and other causes of destruction. Thus she is the best of the 7 principal holy cities, Kashi, Kanchi, Avanti, Mathura, Ayodhya, Mayapuri, Haridwar, and Dwarka, which can each award liberation. As we learn from the authority of the Skanda Purana, Kashikanda 668, certainly she is better than all other cities throughout the universe, high and low, belonging to humans, demigods, and even the incarnations of God. Sri Mathura is supremely attractive, and she pleases the mind of anyone who comes in contact with her, for she fulfills all categories of desires. In this regard, the Skanda Purana, Vaishnava Kanda 5:17-52 states, Chivagada Kamininam Ya Mimukkushanam Samokshada Bhakti Cho Bhakti Taskastam Maturam Nashrayat Buddha. To those who have material desires, Mathura gives the 3 aims of human work: religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. To those who want liberation, Mathura grants liberation. And to those rare souls who want pure devotion, Mathura gives pure devotion. What intelligent person, therefore, will not take shelter of Mathura? For these reasons, Mathura is very dear to Sri Krishna, the enemy of the wicked King Kamsa. She indeed has received Krishna's special favor. After killing Kamsa, the residents of Mathura hardly ever suffered fear or distress. Krishna's greatest favor to Mathura, however, is that he takes birth and resides within her precincts. Mathura Bhagavan Yatra Nityam Sannihitro Hari. Lord Hari is eternally present in Mathura, Bhagavatam 10:128. Adorned with the Supreme Lord's birthplace and residence, Mathura dispels all misfortune and bestows both liberation and pure devotion. For this she is glorified throughout the world, but the glory of Mathura district gains when Lord Krishna exhibits his Ras Leela. and other intimate pastimes is beyond anyone's power to describe. So Mathura is a town, but it's also the name for the district of which Vrindavan is situated. Yeah, I'll just read this last verse here. Then we'll complete today's first reading of Bhagavatamrta. Many Puranas confirm that Mathura frees from karmic misfortune those who come to her. The Varaha Purana 165, 57, 58 states, Anyatra yat kritam papam tetam asatya nashyati titi tu yat kritam papam frajalepo pavishyati Mathurayam kritam papam Mathurayan vinashyati Esha puri mahapunya yatra papam natishtati. The reaction from sin committed elsewhere can be gone when one visits a holy place of pilgrimage, whereas a sin committed at such a holy theatre creates a irremovable diamond-hard shell to cover the sinner. But the reaction from a sin committed in Mathura can be done away with in Mathura itself. Mathura is therefore the most auspicious of holy cities where sinful reactions do not persist. Hari Om Tat Sat, Hare Krishna. So, thank you everyone. That's the first reading of Bhagavatamrta. Let's see how it goes. It might be like we did the Veda Gita, more reading. Let's just...
There were 2 more slokas. You haven't finished it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just small little bit.
Okay, why don't I finish up the text? Yeah, okay, very good. We get to
Finish that whole thing.
Yeah, I'll finish the number text 4. Yeah, I didn't see that. Text 5 is just there, yeah. Janan gananato gananato vapi yat papam samupajitam supritam duskadam vapi potorayam pranashyati. Whatever sinful reactions may have occurred in the past, knowingly or unknowingly, are all destroyed in Mathura, along with one's pious and impious karma, according to the Skanda Purana, Vaishnava Kanda 5:17-44. Kashi adi puro yadi nama shanti tasam tumadje maturai vadanya yajjanma monatji vrata michuddha dahai ninam chatoda vividadi moksham. Among the various holy cities like Kashi, Mathura is most auspicious because she bestows upon human beings she bestows liberation upon human beings in 4 ways. In Mathura, they may attain liberation by birth, by vows of initiation, by death, or by cremation. In other words, in the words of the Padma Purana, it is said, Anyeshu punya kashetrateshu Anyeshu punya kashetrateshu mukti eva mahapalam mukti pratya hari bhakti mathurayam hi lapyate. In other holy places, liberation is the greatest reward one can achieve. But in Mathura, one can gain what is prayed for by the liberated, devotional service to Lord Hari. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So let's stop there, shall we? And next week we'll continue with text 5 of Bhagavatamrta. So thank you everyone for joining us this first reading, and hope you can come along next week and we can continue to share this nectar together.
Krishna Prabhu, just wanted to ask, is it okay to read the Sanskrit also, Prabhu, when reading by everybody? So I think Sanskrit, when you recite, it gives, it is more auspicious.
It's nice, isn't it? Yeah, we can. I can tell others who can read. They would like to as well. Mother Sarachari read it very nicely as well. Yeah, let's do that if you like.
Yeah, it's up to mother, all the other mothers.
Yeah, anyway, you can discuss amongst yourselves, but I'm happy to do that. Happy to do that, yeah.
Yeah.
That was lovely, Prabhu. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mulli Prabhu. It
Thank
was
you very much.
wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
His Grace Mulli Prabhu ki
Jai.
jai.